So, now that we have presumably all accepted the three premises we begin with, the interesting result is, okay, so what's the point? What happens when we accept these premises? I think this is where it gets really interesting. And I am not yet prepared to say that this conclusion is necessitated by the premises, although I am more and more beginning to think that I don't see another way out of it. But of course, there's always logical possibilities. So, failing some very, very intelligent argument to the contrary, I'm going to assume that nearly, or at least probably, this conclusion is necessitated from our premises. I think we get to this natural rights argument very quickly after accepting these three premises, which I think there's not too much room to dispute, which I've already gone into in the previous two little videos that I might have to combine into one. And I think the natural rights argument of John Locke, the life, liberty, and property, when analyzed to its full fruition, I think what you really begin to see, at least in my analysis, is that every ethical violation is necessarily a property violation. So let's go over John Locke's life, liberty, and property. And it's funny because, of course, property is the one that we so often leave out, right? So Jefferson substitutes that for the pursuit of happiness. And yet, quite possibly, if you wanted to reduce those three natural rights, life, liberty, and property, into one, property might be the one that actually has the best go at a reduction. So, life, well, again, we're starting with the state of nature and a person in a state of nature. And because of the phenomenological experience of being able to control our own bodies, such that, right now I'm experiencing what some might call as consciousness, and this consciousness is having experiences which is being related to me by various sensory appendages, and somehow I seem to be the only consciousness in control, or partially in control of this body, let's say. Let's get away from biological issues we can't control sometimes. So yeah, it doesn't seem, at least right now, I have never experienced mind control. So let's get away from propaganda complications there. So I am the mind that controls this body, at least to a certain extent, to the exclusion of all others. Well, for me to control a material thing, have right to it, to the exclusion of all others, well, gee, that does get to a definition of property again, doesn't it? So it seems that the natural right I might have in the Lockean sense to a right to life might in fact be a property right that I just happen to find myself planted in this particular flesh bag, and somehow I have access to the controls to the exclusion of all others, and therefore I claim a right to this body. And I would really like it if you would not try to harm me, assault me, or attempt to murder me, because I like to be alive. So yeah, life is a property right, perhaps. Liberty, well, if you try to threaten, coerce, or extort me, and then, well, gee, I suddenly my choices are not confined by the mere fact of nature around me or the mere fact of my environment, but a secondary ethical entity, much like myself, is thus making claims against me, and I think that I don't consider extortion and coercion to be, ethically sound actions. So I would, it's more than just a preference. I would say that, to coerce and to extort and to, do these things, to threaten violence against a person, or to, threaten violence against a person to get them to do things that they wouldn't ordinarily do when that act is not itself unethical. In other words, I'm here not hurting anyone, not violating anyone's rights, and someone was to then, you know, initiate some kind of aggressive action against me, well, suddenly, you know, it's not like a natural thing or whatever. It's another entity putting claim on me, which I argue is illegitimate. So liberty might be, you know, is just as much as life is, might be a property right that, as I control this body and I make decisions, so long as my decisions aren't in conflict with another person's particular rights, geez, I feel like, you know, I should be able to do those things without the coercion of secondary or third parties. And of course, property, you know, that reduces pretty well to a property right now, doesn't it? So, sorry, I turned onto a busy road. I'll get off this shortly. Hopefully the sound quality doesn't decrease too badly. I'm going for a walk with the puppy dog here. So, yeah, I think that these three premises that you know, human beings are, you know, ethical beings, ethical actors that have free will. Secondly, that all human ethical claims are to be analyzed equally, or are equivalent in the nature of ethics itself in that particular person. And thirdly, that private property is possible, if not actual, and of course I think it's actual. I just feel it's an easier claim to make that it's possible, and as soon as you admit that it's possible, you know, the fact that it's actual, it gets to be a lot easier. So, I think this gets us to this life, liberty, and property, which ends up, I think, in the analysis to be a property claim. Life, liberty, and property, all the natural rights of John Locke, is actually perhaps a property claim. And, you know, it seems to me fairly interesting that such a property claim seems to support the principle of non-aggression, or the non-aggression axiom, or the non-initiation of aggression axiom, or also known as NAP, NAP. And this is a basic ethical principle, which, you know, boils down everything we've said thus far, and says that no person has the right to initiate aggression against another person, and that aggression can include actual violence and force, or it can include coercion, which is the threat of force to, you know, get some kind of involuntary compliance, and then theft to include fraud and such things like this. So this non-initiation of aggression, no violence, no force, no coercion, no theft, no fraud, is really equivalent to the natural rights principles of John Locke's life, liberty, and property. And I think that's why it's significant to go through these premises. So thank you for watching this video study. It's beginning to snow, a little snow and rain, the first we've had this year in Rochester, New York, and I bid you adieu.